My name is Jackson White. I'm a former collegiate football player from Cal Lutheran University. I first got introduced to Lucas when he was my strength coach back in 2021. I've been working with Lucas for 5 years now with a heavy emphasis on speed as well as strength. As an athlete, especially a football player, you're really only competing, with those pads on for about 3 or 4 months, depending on how far you go. And coming into here, it allowed me to produce that competitive equity I needed to be able to prepare myself for each and every fall. I think the biggest thing was strength and power. As a defensive lineman, your get off is huge. It's really everything, especially, when you're pass rushing, but even when you're stopping the run. So really working on that first step, breaking the glass, and ultimately, 10-yard bursts, 20-yard bursts, and then 30-yard, depending on what, the day entailed of training. I think the biggest thing that I improved was my speed. The only way to get faster is to run fast. I think that's something that Lucas harps on every day. I mean, if I had a penny for every time he would say that, I'd be a very rich man. So I think that's what we would do here is we would just get out there and really and run, because it's the only way in order to improve yourself. I think, day one with Lucas, the first thing he's going to do with you is he's going to get you on the hill. That's a staple here at LQ, speed and strength. So with that being said, you would, first start out with, your build-ups to really get the blood flowing to warm up. Then you'd go into 10-yard bursts, 15-yard, all the way up to 30. And the allotment would depend on what your training plan would say that day. And then from the hill, you would go onto the flat ground and you'd work on the lasers. Sometimes it would be resisted with the sled. You'd be pulling a sled. And then other times you'd take that sled off and just get ready to roll. That summer was one of the most, integral summers in terms of me becoming an athlete, because it really taught me, how to train, especially on the hill. When you're out there with your brothers, there's nothing like that, competing, talking trash, just all in all, giving it your best and then going to lift weights after. I think what that hill did is it taught me, how to run with good mechanics, really striking the ground, breaking the glass with the ball of your foot rather than your heel or your toe. And I think with that incline, it really just kind of helps you improve your running motion and how your foot is supposed to hit the ground, which can mitigate injuries and other things of that nature. After, running on that hill and doing all the resistance sprints that we were doing, I absolutely got faster. That particular year I was put on, the kickoff team, which I think previously, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be on there. And I think a big testament to that, as a freshman, being able to run down on the first kickoff of the year was because of that summer sprint session where I was able to improve my speed, and ultimately my coaches were able to trust me to go down there and go make a play. I think, culture is, obviously something, in sports. I think, we all, sometimes it's overused, but at the end of the day, it's something that is a fundamental part of an organization. And, coming in here, I think the brand kind of speaks for itself, and that brand and that culture is competition. I think it's athletes wanting to get better. Everyone's here because they choose to be here. Lucas isn't, calling us up, hey, do you want to come train today? I have to be the one that, reaches out to him, hey, you got a spot open at 6 a.m. or, whatever time that may be. And, it's not often you get a former collegiate strength coach that's made a full transition into kind of the private training realm. So I think it's very special that, I got an opportunity to go work with someone like Lucas, and I was lucky enough to have him as my strength coach. But other athletes, they get that team training feel by coming to a gym, and I think that's very important to have, because it's not often that you get that. And I knew every time I got an opportunity to come in here, it was up to me how I was going to take advantage of that opportunity. In terms of, Lucas would tell athletes all the time, like, this is going to get them better for preparing for high school and preparing for college, because not every athlete, in middle school is training like how you would train here. Not every athlete in high school, depending on where you go. Yes, a lot of people and a lot of schools take their strength and conditioning programs very seriously, but also not everyone has that luxury. So having someone that has seen it all, that's worked at the collegiate ranks as a head strength and conditioning coach, it's very important to come to an environment that can really prep you for high school and college, like Lucas will. I would 1000% recommend other athletes to come in here. I can be a testament for that. I played 5 years of college football, was an all-conference athlete, was a captain, and I credit a lot of that to Lucas and how he taught me how to compete and how to be a leader and how to help build a culture.